Namaste. I'm making this video just for you. Although you can share it with Ashish if you want. It's not for the world. I'm really sorry this morning that everything, wow. I mean, the last couple of times we've tried to play cards, it's just been impossible. Hopefully tomorrow, because both of us, we need a break to play cards. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to tell you about stuff. It took me a while. I'm doing this on my iPhone, and I'm hoping that I can put it I'll just send it to you on Messenger. I'm just eating my dinner and talking to you, okay? I had a long talk, actually. I talked to Ashish this morning in a call about the community plan. Now, it's very difficult with him because he doesn't have the English that you do. So it's hard for him to keep up with me, and it's my fault. I probably speak too fast. But I also know that with foreign languages, excuse me, with foreign languages, if you have difficulty understanding, that difficulty is made worse on electronic devices. So, anyway, he said he would definitely talk to you. He was just when he talked to me, he told me he was just finishing with a 2-hour meeting in his village about ways to create more economic opportunity and all of that. So what he was talking about, the work that he's doing in this village, is the very same work that the proposal fleshes out and makes more real what needs to be done, okay? I think you have a pretty firm handle on exactly what the plan is. I think that today I tried to do a video. It would be more specific about the different areas of concern. Like, for example, I hate it that this is all we get to talk about, but I told him I'm trying to ensure that you and him and the people in Nepal have a concrete idea of this divine plan. It's not my plan. These things come to me in the middle of the night. It's very kind of spooky, you know. You don't want to be me. I mean, well, maybe you do want to be me. I don't know. Being me's pretty fun. I've had a really interesting life on this planet. Really interesting. Some of it was horrific, horrifying, and really discombobulating, but at the end of the day, it's been the best adventure ever. I mean, it has just been spectacular. And meeting you and meeting Ashish and meeting the Nepali people and seeing the beauty there and seeing the need there to preserve that beauty is essential. It's essential to the world that all of these, and this particular plan for a cooperative village structure is one that can be used all over the world. It can just be modified to those cultures. Every culture has its own beauty, its own spiritual tradition, its own magic. Africa has huge need for community building. And this same structure, the same things are true in Africa that are true in Nepal, just different culture, different culture, different problems. But this plan for the cooperative village can be duplicated all over the world, where indigenous and poor mountain communities are struggling. So, to be able to participate in that and to see that grow, I think will be a miraculous thing. And I believe that Ashish is really important that you convey everything I've conveyed to you to him. I told him some of it today. I talked to him about education, for example. The education component is very important. For one thing, English teaching is very important to being able to do business with the West. You have to have the language. But the way it's being taught in Nepal is a waste of time. You cannot learn a language just by memorizing words. And you can't learn to read and you can't learn to spell unless you're given the structure. You have to give the nuts and bolts of the language before anybody can take that language and build a house out of it. So I told him that because you've worked with me, you know what the grammar is, and you know what the phonetic teachings are. And so some of that needs to be corrected. In terms of the education system, you could do it better if you do it right. And you know how I feel about the English boarding system in Nepal. Where you educate your children, they are the ones that are molding your children's ethics, your children's brains, and in the end, your children's future. And all I can see is the education system of the English boarding schools. All that does is prepare children to be Western children, to have Western values, Western ideals. Nothing in Nepal it's all looked down upon in those systems. So, you need to really, really, really work on having this is a political problem partially, but if nothing else, the village co-op can supplement the government school situation to help children really excel. And in the government co-op, you can have computer classes. You can, once you have electricity and internet set up that's consistent, and then you should have a room where people can use computers. Here, we have the public libraries. They're funded basically by the government, but it can be done other ways. But the public library, I wish I had a picture of one, but they're free to everybody. And you go in the public library and they make out a card for you, so you have a library card. And you go in the library, and the library is full of all kinds of books, and sometimes pictures, artwork, all kinds of great stuff, music, everything. And it's totally free. And you can take the books out. There's a period of time, usually it's 2 weeks. You can take the book for 2 weeks. and then you return the book, and you can get another book. You could get 8, 10 books. They don't care how many books you take, as long as you bring them back. If you don't bring them back, then that's a problem. Generally, they fine you a nominal amount, like a dime a day or something. It's probably up to $1 a day now. But the fact of the matter is, it's a free resource. When my daughter was little and we had no money, the public library, I lived in the public library. In fact, at one point in time, this was before she was born, I had a job working on a mobile library. The big state library had these big buses that were full of shelves of books. And we went around to all of these rural communities outside of the city, and we had stops at different little towns, and people would come on and they would borrow books, and then the next 2 weeks later we'd go back and they'd return the books and get other books. I loved that job because I found out what all of the old people liked to read, and I would specifically stock books that were in their interest area. So when I got to their stop, I had a bundle of books for them, all prepared. It was a great job, one of my favorite jobs. But what happened was I got pregnant with Christy, and I didn't realize I was pregnant. And one morning I'm on the bookmobile, and the bookmobile had a generator, and a gas generator to run the lights and all of that stuff. And so all of a sudden the fumes from the gas generator hit me, and I was throwing up in the woods. It's like when you're pregnant, you get morning sickness. So I still didn't know I was pregnant. We got to another stop, and I did the same thing. And the old man who was the driver of the bookmobile, he said he was a grandfather. He was a beautiful old man. His name was Mr. Kuntz. I loved him to death. He was driving the bookmobile. He was about 75 years old. And we used to stop and have picnic lunches together and all kind of stuff. He was great. But anyway, he looked over at me and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I think you're pregnant." And I was very quiet, and I started adding up the days. And I was like, oops. So it turned out I had to kind of leave that job because I couldn't be throwing up in the woods every day. So anyway, that's just a side story. What were we talking about? Oh, lending libraries. You can have lending libraries of tools. Okay, and one of the things I was telling him is, this is really, really important. You have to be extremely careful of foreign money. As soon as they start giving you money, they start requiring bachelor's degree people to come in and tell you how to live and what to do. And they try to turn it into what they think you should be doing, not what Nepali people should be doing. They try to change you into who they are. You don't want that. What we want here is to preserve the culture of Nepal as it is. So, because it's really a treasure to the world. And it's really, really, really an important mission to preserve these cultures in the midst of the corruption of the West and the East of India and China. It's very important to be on guard and make everything be about for the people, by the people, for the people. That's an American slogan. Unfortunately, with the way the government is now, there's no by the people or for the people. They don't even know what they're doing. But that's another story. The whole point of the project is it's by the people, for the people, with as little outside interference as possible. However, that does not mean that you can't utilize the beautiful aspects of a people's desire to help. What I have found in working with a lot of different groups all over the place is it is very easy to get donations from, especially from Christians. They like to do things like giving you sewing machines because they can make a project. One little church can make a project to gift you one sewing machine, and with a sewing machine does not come a lot of bondage to, oh, you have to do it our way, you have to do this, you have to do that. When they give you objects, it's different. And it's very easy to appeal to a very different, especially Christian groups in the West, for things like sewing machines. Tools are another thing. You know, if you could have a few power saws, things that will make things easier and more efficient for the people, means that you have more time to pursue the other things that you can make to sell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but a community project has a community library of tools. And you need a meeting room where you can teach, or some kind of room where you can teach, or if they'll let you use the local school after school is out. You know, there's all kinds of ways of doing these things, but you'll want to be able to have community meetings on things like horticulture, agriculture, organic farming, educating on the harmful aspects of chemical fertilizer. Chemical fertilizer should be banned from the earth. It destroys the soil and it destroys the water table. And the poisons show up in the food and cause cancer. It's critical that those kind of issues be taught and discussed and have community meetings about it, and because what one farmer does affects all the other farmers. If the runoff is going into the river, it affects everybody downstream. The idea of everything has to be, we have to be compassionate and care about what's going on in our neighbor village, in our neighbor cities, in our neighbor's land, because the mistakes we make on our land will affect everybody else downstream from that, and down airstream from that. When you burn the stubble of the crops that you've fed chemical heavy metal fertilizer to, then all of that goes into the air. And that's what's poisoning New Delhi greatly, partially, halfway. The other half is fireworks at Diwali. Don't poison the air. All of these things, hang on a minute, I have to move because my leg is falling asleep and I can't feel my foot. Hang on. It takes a great deal of effort to, those can't be there. Just a minute, I will be right back. I know you're not even there, but I'm sure you will be there because you always are there. It's one thing I can count on in this life is BJ is always there. Okay. Okay, had to stretch my foot out. I had to move it around a little bit. Uh, okay, so yeah, you're going, and also you can. There's all kind of YouTube videos on organic farming, on making manure tea, on making compost tea, on techniques people have found to have beautiful, productive crops, while at the same time restoring and feeding back into the soil so it can continue to feed you. So all of those things need to be part of the community cooperative education plan. What they're taught in government school, and that's a whole nother battle. But the thing is that in terms of the children in the village that you're working with, all of those things have to be a part of community education. And if everybody works together on doing those things, and they're much easier to be done cooperatively, if everybody works together on doing those things, you can't help but be more prosperous. And there has to be real education on, at this stage of humanity's being on this earth, you and I both know we're facing some real challenges. Pollution is, and what's going on just south of you in India is, you need to look to the future, because the handwriting's on the wall. If India doesn't really start addressing their agricultural crisis, they're going to end up having a famine. Already they can't export rice to you. That tells Nepal something. That you have to be able to produce and reduce your dependency on other countries for product, because they can control you through your need. My biggest, you are extremely intelligent and very innovative. I know you know what the whole scope of this project is. And one of the other things I wanted to really emphasize with you is part of the economic plan. A lot of things can be done with business negotiations rather than asking for charitable donations. If you get involved with taking Western money from any source, even the United Nations, it will interrupt the flow of the purity of the people building their own lives on their traditions, restoring the old ways in a modern setting. So you have to be very careful. Now, if you can negotiate with a company like the solar and wind power companies, and I think you should investigate wind power as well, because if you have a lot of rain all of a sudden, and your solar systems may not be fully operating, but generally when you have rain, you have some wind too. So, investigate both. But if you can make the village independently sustainable with as little governmental interference as possible. I don't know how all that works, but that's why it's important to have somebody like Ashish Ashish does know how all that works. And this is exactly the kind of project that Ashish really believes in and really wants for the village. I can't tell him all of it because I don't speak the language. And it's frustrating because I know even when I talk to him, and we've been talking um, on here, like, on calls, it's hard, I think, for him to fully understand what I'm saying. So, anyway, I believe that all of what we're talking about here is exactly what the villages, in the end, if they're going to thrive, need. And I told him, I said, one of the things is to make a society where all the men don't have to go overseas to make a living. So the women and the children are left back here, and then the women, it doesn't work out well. You need to be at home with your children. And the children are farmed off to English boarding schools to become nice little British citizens. Nepal is worth so much more than this. And Nepal is selling itself short. It's losing its greatest resource. It's young. How is it losing them? It's losing them to a foreign education system that's there simply to convert them to their way of thinking. If you don't do anything else, if you have children, do not send them to British boarding school. Ever. Not if you want their souls to live. So it's like I tell you with your music, write music in Nepali. Astound your own people with the wisdom of your song. Don't worry about making music for the West. Most of it's lost on them anyway. Anyway, I know that Ashish is very concerned about my health, and I know you are too. The fact of the matter is, I don't have a crystal ball that says, hey, I'm going to be out of here next week or 6 months from now. But the fact of the matter is that I know that I'm failing. I'm not real interested in food, and sometimes I sleep 15, 16 hours at a time, and I'm very tired, although, I'm still doing everything, because I have to do everything. I'm trying to get this project totally transferred to you so that you can take it and talk to Ashish and see how you can facilitate its planting and growth, because I think it's perfectly wonderful plan. I don't know any other way to show the world that we can work together and make a difference. I mean, change begins first inside of our own hearts, then in our families, and in our communities. Change builds, it's like, I did on my YouTube channel, there's a live video that I did, or a YouTube video that I did on exactly this. It's it's like when you throw a pebble in. You're sitting at the edge of a crystal clear pond, and it's totally still. There's no breeze, and the pond is totally still. And you take a pebble and you skip it into that pond, and the ripples get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if there weren't any boundaries of that pond, those ripples would go out eternally. And the meaning of this story is that's what we have to be. We know what truth is, and we want to make a change, a peaceful change, an enlightened change, a change where everybody works as one with one purpose, and that is to make a ecologically sustainable life for all the community. That's the purpose. And in the process also is very, very important that from the very beginning children are taught mindfulness training. It's not a religion. It's teaching children that they have to practice patience, that they have to be kind, that there are principles of fairness, and that they all have to work together in groups as a cooperative. And schools don't do enough of that. It's all about individual competition. Instead of competition, we need cooperation. Cooperation is what gets the job done. Competition is a corruption. It keeps us apart. It keeps us from caring about each other. It keeps our religious and spiritual traditions from having any effect. So it's about teaching cooperation, cooperative groups. From the time children are very little, they can learn to cooperate and be kind and be patient. Children are inherently have all those things. They learn all the negative things from being in the world. And one of the biggest teachers is where they go to school. So one of the reasons that you have still such a pure view on things is because of the hardship, and that you had to go a different way. So my computer just went to bubbles. I have a screensaver of bubbles. You want to see my bubbles? See? Anyway, I want, if I have time, but it's things. It's hard enough for me just to get out of bed in the morning, and then there's a lot of things going on here, really. Oh, by the way, here's some good news, and you should be inspired by this, because if there's one person that is very much like my oldest grandson, Jeffrey, it's you. You both have the same level of brilliant intelligence, as well as the same undying devotion to getting to where you're going. Well, Jeffrey, I told you, he works in a company as a software engineer, and he's working his way up through the ranks to now have his own office, okay? And which is brilliant, because he never went to college. He trained himself to do all this computer programming. He trained himself. He never went to college. And he's now sitting in a master level degree position, basically. And today, the company had a discussion, and they decided he was so valuable that they would up his salary $17,000. And by the end of next year, he's going to be making almost $100,000. So, a year. So, anyway, we're really proud of Jeffrey. And I believe that you will do the same thing. That you will parlay your beauty, your skills, your exceptional brilliance, and your devotion into being doing much more than most people do, even with a college degree. A degree is not everything. Sorry. Oh. Anyway, I'm supposed to be eating. I don't like it, really. I have ramen noodles, but I don't think I'm going to eat them. Anyway, I believe that even though most of the world doesn't believe, I believe, even though most of the world doesn't believe. But I believe that I will be here for as long as I need to be here, in terms of ensuring that every bit of this mission is fully given to your heart, so that, because it is God's will that we find a way. We have to find a way. And what's the point of having a life if, when all of humanity is at the very cliff edge of real destruction, we don't do everything we can do to find a way? And the way is one family, one person, one heart, one family, one community at a time. And there's no conversion of anybody, whatever religion or rituals or traditions that exist that are to the good in the community, are always to be honored. That is where you build the foundation, because that's where the foundation already is. You want to build on the foundation that's already there. If it's a simple mountain village where everybody's Muslim, then you build on that foundation. But if you can do anything that you can to educate in terms of all the different religions being one, we need to teach that to children. We need to teach children that their tradition is beautiful. And the reasons for how it shapes your behavior, so that you can so that you can follow the Buddha path, the ways of the heart that lead us to spiritually evolve. Spiritual evolution is not about some holier-than-thou attitude. It is evolution. It's the only evolution. The only true evolution happens when we evolve as spirits, when we become enlightened, light-filled beings that are all one soul. That's when the mystery really begins. That's where the journey really begins. All of this down here is is just trying to help souls to see that and help souls to rise, and not to get up and go pray to Jesus, and not to get up and go pray to Shiva, but to get up in the morning with the aspiration to practice the practices of the way. Practice patience, practice mindfulness, practice seeing where your human being is blocking you from unfolding your divine being. And then you just do the practices to work on unfolding the divine being. And how do you do that? You practice patience. You mindfully, every moment of every day that you can, come back to. Mindfully come back to what's going on inside of your own consciousness. And if you're feeling stress, then make a remedy for the stress. If you're feeling impatience, then don't move if you have to run, you run, okay? But if you can, you just stay a little longer until the impatience is resolved. Well, I had to really practice patience. I realized at one point that patience wasn't going to just happen. There's not going to be no magical patient pill, okay? And I realized that without patience, I don't know peace. When we're impatient, when we always want to be someplace where we're not, that's impatience. You want to be someplace you're not. You want to get rid of what you're doing so that you can move on to doing the next thing. Well, when you're impatient, you're not in the present moment. And the only place we really can spiritually unfold is in the present moment. So, and impatience does, if you think of how you feel when you're impatient, and I know you know these things, but these things we have to teach to people, especially children. Because it's much easier to teach a child, they're already there. You want to teach them how to stay there and still grow up and live an evolved, a collectively evolved life. It's about evolution. We have to evolve here. And the only way to evolve is through oneness. But that doesn't, I think I sent you, I can't remember. You know, I'm so busy all the time and I'm so tired. But anyway, I think I sent you Hazra Inyat Khan's. I'll post it on that group today for you. Try to save it. It's on unity, and it talks about just because we talk about unity of spirit does not mean that there's not diversity in that unity. It doesn't mean everybody just goes out in a puff. You know the puff theory? It's like, it's not a puff theory. It's these people that believe in they're totally religious about non-duality. That's somebody who's really into non-duality, don't even try to argue with them. It's impossible to talk them out of it. And in the long run, in the big picture, yes, there is no duality. Everything is one. But in the vastness of the universes that compose that oneness, there is great diversity. So diversity is beautiful. It's like the different colors of the rainbow. We don't want everybody to be just alike. I mean, butterfly and a bird, you know, we have to have diversity, but the fact of the matter is the unity of the oneness of consciousness is being totally defiled here. It's really, I mean, what's going on in Palestine is it's going to be a total bloodbath. Why? Because some people lost their patience and decided they just had to go and do murder and mayhem to show that they could. And now probably thousands of women and children and innocent people are going to be murdered, which is the fault of the murderer. But at the same time, don't poke a bear that's bigger than you. There are other ways to have a revolution. We have to learn from Gandhi. You can't go up against the West. Not at this point. But there are things you can do. And this is one of those things. Just quietly build. Anyway, I believe that those mountain communities, okay, the villages, are going to really have a significant impact on the restoration of human spirit and human civilization. Because when everything comes apart, it's going to be a very different world. And those skills and developing ecologically sound sources of energy is really essential. Because if you can build your whole power grid on solar and wind power, then you have no dependence on anyone except yourselves. And they need to, when they do all this, they need to do the legal paperwork so that it's community. Everything is community owned. If other people come into the community, then they join the co-op. And when they join the co-op, they also become a part of the investment. Ashish, I'm sure, has the knowledge and expertise to be able to do the business and the legal parts of the thing, because it's not just as simple as just going there and doing it. It never is. I mean, I'm sure your government wants a hand in everything. I don't like your government very much either. From what I see, they don't do nothing for nobody except themselves. Now, the mayor of Kathmandu is an exception. I think he's really making an effort. And that's a beautiful thing to see, but a lot of what goes on with you, it's like the menstrual pad thing. I never did get an answer. But I'm sure that when the government said they were going to provide it and all of this stuff, and they did this big splurge, and they had the UN and everybody patting them on the back and saying how good they were, nothing ever came of it. So, I mean, in the labor laws, if you can't come up with any kind of labor law, you can't have any kind of it's horrific. So, those are all issues that can be dealt with as time goes on, but you know what all the issues are. I'm sure you can figure all this out. I'm sure if I dropped dead tomorrow, you would be able to do this just fine without me, but I just keep talking at you because you seem to like it, and I need to feel that I'm giving you everything, so that when I'm not here, you'll be able to look back. And also, you should go to my YouTube channel. I don't know if I think you're probably, I don't check my subscribers. It's not what I'm just not into it. Okay, but I have a lot of videos there. Some of the videos I made for children. Okay, some of the videos I made for adults, they're very simple spiritual teachings, and also I made some slideshow videos like of the national anthem. I didn't send that to you because all the pictures in it, they're from my first visit to Nepal, and they're all are of Campbell and those guys, and I'm just not into advertising them, so I need to change the pictures. I need to go in there and change the pictures, but I'm very busy. I also, I think you're aware, but my page is a place where a lot of people come, and there are people that I follow and people that I respond to, and teachers that I correct and try to keep on the straight path. And also I have dear spiritual friends that are like you. There's one girl, her name is Lori Fenner. She's out in Washington State. And she lives on a river. She lives in a trailer on a river. And she has horses and dogs, and she used to have a pig named Wilbur. Wilbur was my favorite. Oh, Wilbur was just a pet pig. He was so sweet. But Wilbur finally got old and died. It's very disappointing. I wanted Wilbur to stay around. I used to do barnyard, what I called barnyard hootenannies for Lori and Wilbur the pig. A hootenanny is a group of, is a musical festival, sort of. So, oh, thank you. Awesome sauce. Thank you very much. I got rice. Christy made cilantro lime rice. See, can you, see? I show you. Yes, good stuff. Hot. Hang on. Okay, so anyway, hootenanny. That's where a bunch of people get together in the mountains and pick guitars and banjos and play folk music. That's a hootenanny. So I used to come every once in a while. I do a post that I called the Barnyard Hootenanny, and I picked out songs for Lori, and I did maybe 5 or 6 songs, and a lot of people would come and play the playlist. So anyway, I tried to explain this morning, and I want to do a video talking about Habibi, because Habibi's story is an important story for children, for everybody really. But see, here's what it is. I'll tell it to you, and then you can tell it to other people. Here's what I'm going to try to do a video of it, but anyway, here's what it is. I have, since I was a very small child, giving was always much, much, much better than getting. I just love to give. It's a natural quality, I think. I don't know. I just loved it. Like Christmases, I would save up. If I used to sell eggs and do stuff like that to make a little bit of money here and there, and I would save all my money, and in August, Christmas is in December, in August, I would start looking around, and every time I had an opportunity, I would find really special things to give each one of my family, and I'd have them all wrapped up and I couldn't wait. I mean, I had to wait like August, September, October, 3 whole months, almost 4 months to give my presents. And I'd take them out of my closet and I would run my hands over them, and I would feel the love that I had in my heart in the choice of each gift. Well, over time, as I grew older, and I've never had a great attachment to things. I see things as being tools, and when they're no longer useful, you just give them away and you move on and do whatever you have to do. But I'm not attached to things. But there are some things with every heart. There are always some things that you have that have a spiritual attachment in your heart, that those things are a part of your love, and your love of them is a part of the love that they are. And for an example are my feathers, my special rock from Kathmandu, my Buddha from the stupa, my mala, okay, my little Bhagavad Gita I carry in my pocket. Those are my special heart things. And when I came to Nepal, I had a different group of heart things. And what I do is, if I love somebody, then I give them a gift of the things that I love the most. Okay, things that it takes a moment of breath and sacrifice to think about letting that object go, because of the memories and the love that's attached to the object. To me, the greatest gift you can give is when you give a gift of something like that. A feather you found that you've been carrying with you for a long time. It can be a stone. I have that stone from Kathmandu. It's on my altar, and at some point there may be somebody that really needs a stone to carry in their pocket that's full of love. And to me, that practice is the practice of really giving love to people. So, Habibi, and I'm trying to get Ashish to understand this. Habibi, when I asked about Habibi when we were at Amma's house, she said, Ashish explained that lamb, okay, was the favorite toy of one of her daughters. And I figured it had to be very special. It had to be something she really loved, because that living room didn't have it didn't have anything extra in it. It was beautiful, but it was pristine, just like Amma, okay? And here was the stuffed animal. So that had to be something that was very close to her heart, or it wouldn't have been there. And when she saw how much it meant to me, when I put it between you and me on the sofa, I kept telling you not to sit on Habibi. It became very important to me, because I knew it was very important to Amma, so that made it a very special lamb. That lamb was full of Amma's love, so I was like, wanted everybody to treat it with the respect it deserved to be treated with. because that lamb is full of Alma's love. So when Ashish came the next morning, he said, "You forgot something last night." I said, "What did I forget?" He said this, and he put Habibi in a bag. I mean, really, he's such a man. Anyway, he gave me the bag with Habibi, and I just sat there and cried. So at that point, Habibi became more than a toy. She was no longer a stuffed animal. She's an ambassador of love. It was a sacrifice for Alma to let Habibi go. I know she made a sacrifice of her heart out of love for me. So she gave me her love to carry with me in Habibi. That made Habibi a love ambassador. And she traveled in style all the way back to the United States, except for one part of the journey, because they started poking and prodding her all the time. And remember, I put those stones in her pouch. She was stealing gems while you were making jewelry. She's quite a stone thief. She is. Anyway, she has 3 or 4 beautiful like beads in her pocket. And all the airports, they were so rude. I mean, they were really mean to her. Like, what's this in her pocket? Like she was like some kind of filled with drugs. Yeah, full of drugs. Why don't you just X-ray her over there? So finally, after about the 4th time, the poor lamb was like being pawed, I put her down in the bottom of my pack and wrapped her up in Ashish's scarf and told her to go to sleep, and then nobody bothered her anymore. But when her head was out of my backpack because I was carrying her, because she was my travel companion, Alma's love. And that's what makes her so special. And I want you to make sure one way or the other, you make sure Alma gets back, that Habibi gets back home to you, because I know you know what I'm talking about, and I know you know what she is. The only other person that can have her is if Alma wants her back. If Alma wants her back, then she can go back home. But Ashish doesn't really understand about why. I mean, to him, it's just a toy. But things stop being a toy when that kind of love has gone into their existence. That lamb is, well, her daughter is probably, I don't know how old, but probably at least as old as Ashish. So that lamb is probably 30 years old at least. And it's been kept in their love all of that time, so it had to be really special. And for for Alma to give me something that's that special in her heart is just, that's heavenly gold. That's priceless. So that's why Habibi is so important, and I think that my brother is very practical and he doesn't totally understand about it, but it's okay. He's very sweet. And he really loves me, and I really love him. I have great respect for him. I just think he leaves me breathless with his activity. But I think what he's doing now is he's pretty much working with his village. He has a real, he works a lot in the village. And so that's why I think it's so important that you really touch base with him and talk about it. Okay? Because I told him about your dedication. I told him you have a sterling resume and great references. So and you have the skills to be a huge help with that kind of project, because you know how to build greenhouses. You know how to do all of the things that are needed, as well as the thing is that you can teach all of those things to the village young people. So, you know what it's all about. Anyway, I'm going to go now because I'm going to eat this rice, and if it kills me, because it tastes really good. This is really, I'm serious. This is really good rice. It tastes like, you know what limes are, the green fruit. It tastes like limes, and cilantro is a spice. It's really good. Eating is not my thing. I'm really could care less. And we have good wine here, by the way. It's disappointing to hear they never got my wine back in. I don't know. Nepal had no taste in wine. They have to figure that out. You probably could make wine there. You probably could grow grapes. I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of things that can be grown and done, like you look at some YouTube videos of how to make yogurt from goat's milk. Yogurt's very, very good for people, especially for old people. It's really, really good stuff. And the fact that they have goats and they don't do anything with the milk, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Because goat's milk doesn't have the diseases that any kind of cattle milk has. It's much healthier. Tastes a bit different, but it's much healthier. It's really good. You can make goat's milk cheese. Next time I have some, I'll show it to you. But it's really good. It's called the Greek food, Mediterranean food. Feta cheese is one of their things, but it's made from goat's milk. So, anyway, I think I'm going to go and watch television because it's almost 8 o'clock. And pretty soon I got to go to sleep. So, but I wanted to talk to you because I felt really bad this morning, but Ashish wanted to talk to me, and when he wants to talk to me, I talk to him because he takes the time out of his schedule to call me, and I think that that's just the way it is. Anyway, I love you lots and lots and lots. Have a beautiful day. I'm looking forward to seeing your resume. Think about the picture situation, okay? Because I really think that other picture is a much better picture of your character than the one you're using. The one you're using is just another kid looking for a way to go somewhere. Another kid looking to go to Dubai or something. I think this other picture is better, but it's up to you because it's your presentation, or you can change the picture back and forth depending on who you're applying to. That's an idea too. But I think the first place you should apply to is Ashish. Seriously. seriously apply to Ashish, because I think that might have real possibilities for you now. Didn't back then. Different situation back then. And you've done a lot of other things since then. And now you have a you've I also told him that you and I had worked together on learning how to do English and how to also teach English, that you now have those skills because we spent a lot of time working on that. So, you have a total overview that is priceless. And it just, I really think that as soon as you could get a hold of him, but present it to him, present him your resume in the whole 9 yards. I mean, oh, and be sure to do your presentation of your books. I told him about your books. So, anyway, we talk tomorrow morning, okay? You're tomorrow night, after you're done doing whatever you do all day today. I'll probably be up for a little while if you want to message me for a minute. Don't hurry on having to watch all this. This is a whole hour and 11 minutes I've been talking just to you. But I haven't finished I'm writing the story that I was telling you about how I became a Muslim and stuff. I'm writing that story to you in my email, but I haven't had time to do it because I had to do grocery orders, and yesterday I got Christy set up with a television in her room where she does her sewing and her painting and all of that stuff. It helps her brain injury. It helps her brain injury just to have that going on in the background. So anyway, it's just everything's been very busy, and I'm really not feeling very good. So I'm just trying to wade through things one thing at a time. Anyway, I love you more than the world. I can't tell you how much I love you. Okay, my television's going from screensaver to screensaver or some such nonsense. Anyway, I love you very much. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.